Hey everyone, guess what? We do not have ugly swag. We have spaced out radio gear that you're going to want to wear. Why? Because no one wants to wear ugly clothing. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com and go shopping today. You'll be glad you did. And it's a great way to support our show. Once you get your gear, send us a picture of you rocking out in your SOR swag. spacedoutradio.com, shop there today, and make yourself look good.
I'm not a good pretender, I never could live a lie. I said too much, I let it get the best of me, until it took the rest of me. I thought it was worth the fight, to fight for what's right, to right all the wrongs, to sing in our songs, to know we belong. No one understands, they don't have the desire, got the legs in the fire, and they do it again. We give it all we can, all we have is desire, got the legs in the fire, we burn and still say never say, never say, never say, never again. I never say, never say, never say, never again. I learned more from one enemy than from 1,000 friends. That heaven takes care of the fools and scoundrels in the end. You learn more from one lie than from 1,000 truths.
Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You've just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight we'll be broadcasting to you on the terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Odyssey Radio. Remember, you can access our archives for free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where the options are endless. You can stay up to date with the SOR Newswire, get some official Spaced Out swag, plus rock out to some Bumblefoot, and oh, so much more. We are back on Sunday here, right? Getting the weekend finished here, getting ready to get you back into that work week, which is where I always like to say we're going to kind of manifest and put positive energy out there for you guys to have an awesome week. That's what we're definitely going to do, like we always do, and continue this theme of raising your vibration and getting your energy together, man, because we really need to do this as a planet. There's so much negativity that gets focused on in society, and I don't think we spend enough time figuring out how we can personally affect the overall feeling and mood of what it is that the energy that's out there, right? So tonight, I'm glad to have Zen Benefiel, who will be joining us tonight. He's hosted a few different shows. He's been doing this thing since I want to say the 80s, right? Very long time. He's been a host, and it's been a person that when I researched, I saw he's really been on this path, this particular path, and very consistent in delivering the message. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a great conversation tonight. I know he has a show called One World in a New World, which is something that he currently has, and make sure you guys go and check out the YouTube channel. But we're going to get into some more enlightening conversations, because that's what we do. That's what we need. That's what humanity needs. And we're going to do it tonight. But first, let me go ahead and jump in the chat so I can go ahead and see who came in here first. I kind of peeked a little bit earlier and wanted to see who it was. And of course, The first person that I saw in the chat is none other than our guy, Race Fan. Hard to beat, Race Fan. It's really hard to beat, Race Fan. It's definitely always going to be the first one up in here, but I do appreciate Race Fan coming on in and getting it started, kicking it off. So appreciate you, Race Fan. Shout out. Next up, looks like we got Mothman saying, good evening, Woo Tribe. With the horns and the alien head emoji. We love it. Mothman, you keep it lit as well. And who do we have here? So Mothman gets that silver, obviously. Race Fan at the gold. Mothman gets the silver. And who gets the bronze? I was looking and I said, who? Nicola Perry Jr. saying, greetings and salutations, fellow space travelers. Long time no watch, Rob G. Glad to be back. And we're glad to have you back, Nicola Perry Jr. I've been looking in the chat and I'm like, okay, there's certain people you see and you don't see. Life happens, and just so glad that you're able to find some time to come on back and join us tonight. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So I think you came back at the right time in the middle of this energy enlightenment conversation that we're going to have for still continuing for at least another week. We got some really great people also coming up. And thanks for coming back in, though. We do appreciate you. Roger Murray, always dropping some knowledge bombs, right? Here we go. June 8th, 1944 to 2024's 80th anniversary of D-Day. June 6th, 1960, my sister Marcia's birthday. 64 years old. Well, happy birthday, Marcia. And Roger Murray, thank you for coming in. And thank you for, keeping the brain going, right? And dropping these knowledge bombs. I like to try to catalog that somewhere up in the mental database. So I totally do appreciate you contributing to the show in that fashion. So thanks for coming on in, Roger Murray. And getting down the list, we have Babylon Rose, who's come in and said, hey, SOR fam, how you doing, Babylon Rose? Thank you so much for coming on in. We do appreciate you. Should be an awesome show. You are right on time. And let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. Now, who else do we have? I'm calling out all names. Everyone pointing out here. We got Lars Jansen, obviously saying good morning, all. Thank you for coming on in, Lars Jansen, with the horn emoji and the heart emoji, right? Because that's what we need. We need some more love in the community, unity in this community, and enlightenment for humanity. I need to put that on a shirt or something, and I will. Don't worry about it. It'll be the SOR swag stores. We do not have ugly swag, as you know. And let's get down the list. Kurt M. Kurt M saying hi, all, wavy hand emoji. Hey, Kurt M, thank you for coming on in and joining us on this Sunday evening as we go ahead and get ready to get into some good stuff. Let's see. Melvin from Mars. Good Sunday evening to all. Good Sunday evening to all as well. Right back at you, Melvin from Mars. Appreciate you. Let's see. We are moving down the list. Yes. Okay. There we go. Latchkey Hustle has stepped in the building saying, greetings, Space Cowboys. Thanks for coming in, Latchkey Hustle. Right along with our guy, Brown Dwarf, saying good evening. Good evening, Brown Dwarf. Shout out. Thanks for coming on in, as you always do. It's expected almost, right? That just shows love and support, and we appreciate you, sir. Let's see. Okay, Dragonfly has actually been even over to the social dig. I want to say I'm sure I've seen Dragonfly over there, and I do appreciate Dragonfly supporting these conversations that we have to have. And I know they're just as important to you as they are to me, as they are to everyone else. So Dragonfly, thanks for your support. We couldn't do it without viewers like yourself. So thank you so much. Excuse me. We have Cosmic Joe Chronicles coming in saying hi, Rob G, with the alien head, the ET spaceship, and the horn emoji. Thanks for coming on in, Cosmic Joe Chronicles. We do appreciate you. Okay, T-Bone stepped in the building saying, MRG, peace, one and all. Love the energy, T-Bone. Love the energy. Thanks for coming on in and supporting the show tonight. Yes, let's go down the list here. Who else do we got? Okay, yes. Mike Bothwell, loving that intro. Yeah, I love it too, right? It's the perfect song. Never Say Never Again by Bumblefoot. It's it was the one that I felt like really fit what we're doing here. And I reworked some of the graphics, and I'm just glad you love the intro, Mike Bothwell. Thank you so much for coming on in and letting us know. But is it just as you would let us know things are good, let us know if things are not so good as well. I mean, we always are trying to raise the bar here. So we appreciate any and all input. Thank you so much for coming in. Irish Punisher. Okay, looks like a new name. So it says Bigfoot isn't real in my opinion. Okay. And yeah, first of all, new name. Seems like you may be new to the channel. If so, I kind of want to fill you in like we always do. You've reached after hours here on Sunday night. You catch this show Saturday and Sunday. It's the weekend show. So we run 8 p.m. Pacific until 11 p.m. Saturday and Sunday here. On Sundays specifically, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific, you catch Jessica Jones' Cryptid Huntress. And you roll right over here to this show Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. until midnight. You get David Scott, conductor of the Woo Train. So 7 days a week, you catch something fantastic here going on in Spaced Out Radio. Love to see you here. And yeah, we could always talk about what's real, what isn't real, perception wise, right? But I think I'm finding out with the phenomena. It's an onion, and the more you peel back a layer, the more you find yourself open to the next thing. And you're on that journey, and hopefully this conversation can help progress that. So thanks for coming in, Irish Punisher. Thanks for supporting the show tonight and joining the conversation. Let's see who else we got here. Susan Alloway saying hello, everyone, and Rob G. Hey, Susan, thanks so much for coming on in. You already know how we get it done here, so thank you so much. Mike Botwell showing the love with the early super chat, saying let's have a great show tonight. We own the night, and we're going to do that, right? Especially with the type of guests we have tonight. There's a lot to learn and kind of perspectives to take in. So we'll get to see all that tonight. John Lamb, hello, Mr. Rob G and SOR folks. Hey, John Lamb, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up. To the after hours, Jessica S saying hi, wavy hand emoji, alien hand emoji, and Mr. Rob G, mods and chatters. Jessica S always bringing the super cool emojis and kind of letting us know. We appreciate you. I want to let you know. Oscar Lindquist just stepped in the building saying, let's do it live. Coming in from X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Appreciate you joining the show from the social media platform X. Oscar Lindquist, we will be getting it in. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Let's see, moving down the list here. Paramar has stepped in the building saying howdy and Irish Punisher. If Bigfoot isn't real, then what do you think all the people who have seen interacted with it have encountered? That's a great question. That's a good question you guys can have there in the chat. We have a lot of knowledgeable, helpful people here who can engage you in a great conversation. So let's see. Okay, I think we're almost there. Looks like everyone else we've called out. Okay. AAO saying hi, you guys, with the heart emoji. Hey, AAO, thanks for coming on in. I know you're still new, still getting your feet wet here. Do appreciate you coming back for a second time and getting engaged with the show. Let's see. Corruption SAR Network saying hello, everyone. Hello, Corruption SAR Network. Appreciate you coming in. Like I said, another new name. I always love to see new names. Please consider hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell. So, next time we go live, because like I say, 7 days a week, there's always something going on here at Spaced Out Radio. And Let's see, Christine coming in. Hi, Robbie G. Hi, everyone, with the heart emoji. You notice all the heart emojis. It's a lot of love being spread around here, as always. Thanks for coming in, Christine. We appreciate you. Paul Damon, yes. Okay, hi, Rob. Have a great show. That's what I'm talking about, Paul Damon. Let's get it going. Let's get it started. Have a great show. I intend to do so. Let me know if it's not meeting your expectations, though. I know you will, and we do appreciate you coming on in tonight. Okay, and Joanne, thank you for coming on in. Thanks for joining the show tonight. Stargazer coming in saying hello, folks. Thanks for showing up tonight, Stargazer. Should be an awesome conversation. Let's see. It means we got a lot of people in there, which is fantastic. We do appreciate your support. Invisible Tracker, thank you so much for coming on in with the little peekaboo emoji. We do appreciate you showing up. Does that mean you're lurking or you're in the chat? Let us know. Phyllis Mouchette Perry saying hi, Rob G. Hello, Phyllis. Thanks for coming on in tonight. Doug Shelby, or as Dave says, the Doug Shelby, saying, hey, all my fellow SOR heads, thanks for coming on in. Doug Shelby. Okay, Cryptid Search saying hi, y'all. Thanks for coming on in, Cryptid Search. Thanks for showing up. Let's see. We are almost to the bottom of the list here. We got Heidi Pop coming in with the cool glasses emoji, the let's get it going muscle emoji, and the synergy. I call that the synergy emoji. Thanks for coming in, Heidi Pop. Thanks for showing up tonight at the show. Let's see. Scroll. Cosmic Joe, we see you. Let's see. Go Oilers, huh? Okay. John Lamb says go Oilers. I guess that means Dave will be wearing that blue and orange jersey tomorrow, which are New York Knicks colors, by the way. Let's see. Carrying in the Woo Train. Hi there to my man Roger Murray. Thanks for coming on in. Carrying in the Woo Train. Jennifer stepped in here as well. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for showing up tonight. And Dino Bravo fan is at the buzzer. Thanks so much for coming on in, Dino Bravo fan. Seems like we have a super long list of people, and I think that's fantastic because the conversation that we're gonna have tonight, and I think we should which I think is really important to the phenomena and where we go with humanity. So I can't wait to jump into this. Let me go ahead and bring in our guest for the night, Zen Benefiel. And this is the title of the thumbnail shows, Psychology of Ufology, Growth and Awakening. Just kind of looking over Zen's past and history and future and current status of the message that he represents. And I think it's one that we're familiar with and one that I think we'll be glad to embrace tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, none other than Zen Benefiel. Hey, Zen, thanks so much for coming in tonight.
Well, thank you, Rob. It's great to be here. And I loved your intro, man. That was a nice piece of production.
Thank you. We do appreciate that. I was looking into you in the last week or so, then next week or so going forward, we were really kind of focusing in on positive energy and getting it out there. We had Christ consciousness, all these sorts of things. And I know you dibble and dabble in those things. First, I would like to have you introduce yourself to the audience, kind of bring everyone up to speed on your past, your current status, and what really brought you into the subject. What kind of made this your passion?
Well, gosh, it began early on. It was kind of a setup. I was orphaned and adopted, and then I found out 4.5 when they brought my sister home that I was adopted, and no question of the unconditional love that I'd gotten. So there was no disturbance. I kind of was curious about my birth parents and all that kind of stuff. But my parents were really open and explaining all the process and what had happened as far as they knew. But what it did leave me with, I'd been attending a little bit of Sunday school at the time, it left me with a question of, do I have a father and mother in heaven, and can I talk to them? I was a 4.5-year-old. I remember distinctly thinking those, or having that question, not realizing what was going to happen shortly thereafter. So a few weeks later, I'm standing on the landing of our in our home, 2-story, looking out over the front porch, and I've got my elbows in the windowsill and my head on my hands, and just it's probably 7:30 at night, dark out, porch lights on, streets about 50 feet in front of me, watching cars go back and forth. All of a sudden, I hear this big booming voice, unlike anything I'd ever heard, deep, resonant, powerful, friendly, and it simply says, "Hey, you." Right? So you can imagine a 4.5-year-old is like, "What, who, me?" And, and I spun around immediately, and my mother was watching television about 10, 15 feet away. And I said, Mom, you hear that voice? She goes, "What voice?" I said, "That, you can imagine a 4.5-year-old trying to talk deep." That voice is, "Hey, you." And she said, "Oh, I don't hear your voice. Must have been a peeping Tom." Well, then it occurred to me that it was actually inside if she didn't hear it. Couldn't deny that I heard it, because I heard it, right? So shortly thereafter, I started standing in front of windows at night with the lights on, and I'd project the voice out and wait for it to return. And I realized that, kids think a lot. And so even adults, we very rarely shut up. So in the projection of the voice, I'm standing there thinking all this stuff, right? Waiting for it to return. And it wasn't until I actually got quiet one night, completely silent, and I heard it. And it was the same voice that had come to me before, and I began having conversations with it. And so anytime I'd have a question or a quandary or whatever, I'd have conversation with this, and I got wise counsel from it always. And it grew to be a very trusting, never questioned who it was. It was just the tone, the vibration, if you will, of that energy in the voice that deemed it worthy of my trust. That's about as best I can explain it, right? So years later, I'm in a pre-med program in college, and I had this moment of despair in between first and second quarters. And I went back and just hit my knees. And I prayed to know what truth was and was willing to die for it if necessary. And didn't realize it, again, one of those questions that you ask and you don't realize what's going to happen. So a few days later, I come back from class. It's 11/11/1975. And I come back and living in the honors dorm, mid-70s, right? I do the obligatory bong hit and album side meditation. And I've listened to Journey's first album. You've never done that before, right? And during the second song, this voice I'd been familiar with comes to me, and it calls me by name. My given name's Bruce. I picked up Zen doing a TV show later. But it says, "Bruce, are you willing to die for what you believe in?" And after your butt pucker for a moment, it's like, what do I believe in? First thought was Christ consciousness. It felt a little empty. Wasn't sure quite why. Didn't question it. I understood later, but at this point I didn't. I moved on to cosmic consciousness, and that felt full. So I said yes. Now, what happened next, it blew my mind, right? So there's a guitar riff, sounds like a rocket ship taking off, a tug from my solar plexus. I pop out of my body, perfect timing. I turn to look at my body laying across my dorm room bed. Then I turn back to look where I'm going. And before I can get turned around, I'm engulfed by white light. And it's this, oh my God, amazing feeling. And then not realizing it, I start analyzing, and it's effervescent, high-pitched, iridescent sensation. Then I realize I'm thinking. It's like, oh shit, I'm thinking. I can't be dead. Woo-hoo, right? Wow, is there more? And I felt this movement in an indigo background with points of light surrounding me. And I intuitively knew that these points of light were points of consciousness, whether in body or not. I wasn't sure because I knew I wasn't. I had a sense that they were somehow. And then the voice picks back up. And this is what's guided me since. It says, these are those that you are to work with in order to facilitate a new world order. It will happen in your lifetime. Know this to be true. Your path will be full of trials and tribulations. Have faith and trust that everything you need will be there at its appointed time. Trust and allow. And on the W, I feel this rush of energy. I'm back in my body, taking a gulp of air, still have my eyes closed. I retained that sensation in my body now, along with there's almost instant awareness that we are all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware. And so the last 50 years has been like, okay, what's that mean?
Right. The journey.
So, but in between that time, I had some initial contact experiences when I was 8 years old. From the time I was 8 to 10, I'd had some out of body experiences and kind of learned how this voice guided me through. And one night I wake up in the corner of my bedroom and I'm watching my physical body get out of bed, climb out my bedroom window, walk across the neighbor's backyard. Of course, now my observer self is moving through the wall, watching my physical body. And I walk over to a pasture. It's got a fence around it. It's about 10 acres. Climb the fence, walk out into the pasture, and I start rising up into the air. And I look up and I see this huge orange cigar-shaped cloud. It's got to be a mile long. And I continue to rise up. And as I hit the perimeter of the cloud, my observer self becomes one. I go into the cloud and I wake up in bed the next morning. Couldn't wait to go back. I had that sense of, oh man, this was really cool, right? 8-year-old, what are you going to do, right? Thought it was a dream. So this went on for a couple of years. Then in 23, I left college and was preparing to move to Phoenix. I'm walking through a metaphysical bookstore in Muncie, Indiana, which is where I'd been going to school. And this book falls off the shelf in front of me. Nobody around. You ever have that happen? So it's like, okay, there's a clue. Breadcrumbs, right? So I walk over and I look at the book and the cover's open and it's Ruth Montgomery's Strangers Among Us. I'm like, that's odd. And I pick it up and I open it up. Now, this is 1981. The book was published in 1978. So I turn it over, and the first paragraph that I read, paraphrased, was the most common UFO contactee experience in the Midwest during the late 50s and early 60s was the orange cigar-shaped cloud.
Wow.
And at that point, it was like a domino effect, right? It just all kinds of dots lined up. It was like, holy shit, that's why I am feeling different and know shit that nobody else seems to. And I had these thoughts and, it was like I was getting training or something, right? It just didn't make any sense until that moment. Well, what do you do with that?
Right.
You just kind of ride with it for a while. So that's what began, and moving to Phoenix came about because I had 3 jobs in 3 days. I was meat cutter, machinist, and playing in a band. I played drums, and all 3 fell through. I walked out on the front porch the next morning, throw my hands up to the sun, and said, okay, where do you want me to go? I'm listening. And I heard Phoenix. So we're in a little small town in Indiana called Alexandria. And we packed up. I was married, 1 kid, 1 on the way. And we moved to Phoenix. And then things really started happening. It was pretty bizarre. So I'll pause there. Right. I'm sure you got questions about
that. Yeah. I mean, and you explain this, you the way you explain it is the visual is there. And so it sounds like you were enlightened from a young age then when you had this initial experience. Now, obviously with the years that passed and then you coming to the realization of with the strangers among us, and finding out that this ship or this cloud was the same one that you went into. At that point, are you now like, okay, well, I was abducted, and then if so,
Oh no, I didn't. Never thought about being abducted. Never had that sense. I was curious. I was longing to go back every time I would wake up in the morning. And this happened bi-weekly for almost 2 years. And so, some mornings I'd wake up with nosebleeds. Didn't think about it at the time, but that's one of the reported factors, right? So, but no, I never, matter of fact, my entire life, I have never felt threatened. Not once. Now, that doesn't mean that the high vibes weren't there that would have caused the feeling of threat or the desire, the fight or flight, right? When you get all of a sudden you go into an energy field that's, just supercharged, it tends to shock you. And unless you can just relax, breathe with it, and understand it as another level, or maybe even a higher level of real unconditional love, then you can just kind of you rise up into it. And it's that high-pitched, effervescent, iridescent sensation. And that's what I experience most in my contact experiences with others.
Okay. So what type of idea at this point? So you had the vision to move to Phoenix. You've had the experience from a child. You had this cosmic consciousness theory that went through your mind. So when you get to Phoenix, does it all start to come together, or like how does it?
It's all in layers, right? It's incremental. It's precept upon precept, like any discipline, like any educational process, right? It's layer upon layer. You can't take a kindergartner, put them in college, and expect them to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It ain't happening. So there's all kinds of, as I was told, trials and tribulations. That was understatement. Let me tell you. The other thing that I was wrestling with was use the term New World Order. So I had some quandary about that because the prescriptive one was already seeming to begin to be talked about, but it didn't feel anything like that. It's more of a harmony among people and planet kind of vibe, right?
Okay.
Which is a natural one. It's how we're built. It's what we're designed for. It's to love and be loved. We've just covered it up with all kinds of crap and don't know how to get back to it. Or maybe, we haven't yet. And that's part of what this new age or age of enlightenment or the true new world order is about, because it's an internal transformation that's happening, or that happens to the individual. And then you figure out, okay, what's my design? What am I here for? You start asking those kinds of questions, right? Who am I? Why am I here? What's all this about?
Mm-hmm.
And those seem really simple and redundant, but when you start really exploring those and holding on nowhere to get your answers and have a death experience or something, a spiritual transformative experience or near-death experience that gives you some kind of an inkling that, oh yeah, there's more. Because without the direct experience, it's hard to fathom what it is. Right? You can't intellectualize it. It's an experience, and you plant your belief system with the experience system as you develop it.
Okay. And so the way I'm looking at it is like, because for me, I can't. It's hard for me to relate to the being introduced to things throughout life, because a lot of my experience, all of my experiences have happened in the last 24 months, right? So it was a crash course into
that's what an accelerated learning curve, eh?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I and for you, and I will open up to other things, but because I kind of feel like, maybe when I was a child something happened, but I don't have a recollection of that. But as you go along, because I know that I saw you with the show that you were hosting was it in the 80s, late 80s is when it started?
Started in 1990. It ran through 92, August of 92. We did 120 some odd shows.
Okay. And at that point, you were already in Phoenix?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We moved here in 81. I worked for an aerospace company for a number of years. I started as a machinist and then became a production control coordinator. I was in charge of $7 million a month in shipments, 800 part numbers and commercial spares. Do you believe that? Had a blast too. It was natural being able to facilitate people, places, and things to do stuff. And that's really what that message was to me. It wasn't about, the New World Order and then facilitating. That's a different word than what one might expect. So what's facilitation about? It's servant leadership, right? That's what it's called today. Is you make sure everybody around you's got what they need. If you're a leader or a business person or something like that.
Okay. So as you're doing this, because I watched a few of the episodes, the ones that you had posted from that time frame, and it's just for me looking back. I mean, we're talking 35 years ago,
Yeah.
where you were already hosting a show that was essentially based around what it is that you're speaking about right now, this enlightenment process that you were going through. So, like, what was
How do we learn to work together better, right?
Yeah, when you started that, like, what was the first day, what was your focus in what you wanted to accomplish with that show at that time?
I wanted to test my theory that there was a golden thread in how everybody addressed their fears. They just spoke about it differently. And the format of the show was, how did you get where you're at? What prompted you to do what you're doing from both inner and outer perspectives? What fears did you encounter? More importantly, how did you overcome them? And then how do you see those fitting into the common human experience around you? So I had all kinds of guests from Frances Barwood, who the night that we had our show, the following day, she was elected city councilwoman. And there was another gentleman that's a dear friend, known him for, almost 40 years now. His name's Tom Marsala. And he and Rachel Mueller were on. Tom was a contactee. Turns out Tom's actually a hybrid. And he told me the story when I saw two almond-shaped eyes behind his the first time that we met, as we were locking eyes and having a conversation. I didn't say anything about it at the time, but I waited a couple of weeks later, and we were out by he was staying with his cousin, cleaning the pool in the morning, and I was talking to him. I said, dude, okay, what is it with your eyes? He said, what do you mean? First thing is denial. And I said, you know exactly what I mean. And he said, well, okay, tell you the truth. And then he said, my mother was abducted when she got pregnant for me. And they've been following me my entire life. And so, I mean, he's got the stature of a gray. His body stature is built that way. And he ended up, becoming a Navy SEAL and working for our government for a while. And then now he's retired and up living on the Navajo reservation. Cool guy, though. He's got some amazing stories with the work that he's done and the experiences that he's had. In that show, he relates that his encounters with them, he says, I can't love that deeply.
Okay, let me ask you this. So with this show starting in 1990, we know that Bob Lazar came out in 89. And that whole, I can't remember the time to know what the mood was then, but what was your perspective on that at the time? Is that something that kind of catapulted you into starting that show?
I've met Bob. That's not my field. I'll just put it that way. There's enough folks involved with that. There's a lot of attention. It's something that I haven't felt really as a need. Now, that doesn't mean that excuse me, I'm unaware of anything because I've been involved with ufology for probably 30 some odd years, and pretty much know everyone, and they know me. I've got a number of books and uh, those kinds of things. So the more important thing is not what, to me, that's more of a distraction. Hey, we've got this and we're keeping the secret, and it distracts others with their attention from finding what the truth really is. And of course that begins internally, and that's where, that if you familiar with Wilbert Smith?
Wilbert Smith
Yeah,
doesn't.
that
No,
name ring a
no,
bell?
no.
Okay, Wilbert B. Smith, actually. He ran Project Magnet in Canada in the 1950s, which is kind of like the Project Blue Book here.
Okay.
And he actually had contact experiences. He had multiple conversations. Grant Cameron actually shared those, um, oh gosh, 3 or 4 years ago. And I know Grant, he's actually got a copy of one of my original Zendor, the Contrarian books. It's almost 1,000 pages. Um, he's, uh, those kinds of things that Wilbert found out are just phenomenal about the exchanges of how they communicate, their preferences, what their core understandings are. For instance, like, we don't explore nothingness. And according to them, he calls them people from elsewhere. That's what they base their understanding on. And of course, we are told that everything comes from nothing, right? But we don't understand or explore what's nothing? What's that really, how does manifestation occur? But we also know that throughout history and all the ancient texts, we're told that something came from nothing.
Right.
So go figure, right? We haven't explored that yet. We haven't explored much. We do know that thanks to the LOA, law of attraction, and those kinds of things, there's this notion in quantum physics is backing it up, that how we think and feel are magnets to
Okay.
experience, right? So vibrational levels, where you're at, you're going to attract similar things. If you don't like where you're at, then change. Right? Well, how do you do that? Right? That's where you go inside and you start reflecting and noticing how you feel when certain things occur, and adjust your activity, how you think, how you feel, how you respond, how you might even put things on pause for a moment and just observe for a little bit rather than making a snap decision or a quick choice and then be sorry later. Right. So those kinds of things. I got off on a tangent. You were originally asking me about uh, how I felt about Bob Lazar and the Area 51 and all that kind of stuff. I will say this: I didn't see the Phoenix Lights, but my wife did,
Okay.
and I was part of the. Now, this could have been, it came down I-17, which was south of Area 51, Groom Lake, in that area. Um, some think that might have been an experimental craft. Some think that it was, just the guys stopping by just to see what kind of things they could stir up silently just by passing by and see what would happen. Those kinds.
Okay. Now, because when I ask about Bob Lazar, what I'm really doing is I'm more so painting a picture of like the world's reaction, or the world's response to the revelation, that the revelations that Bill
That we've got reverse engineered materials.
right, just that the things are real.
Yeah, that is kind of a showstopper, isn't it?
But then versus the stigma, right? Because the stigma is strong at that time, but then you still choose to create a show that could be looked at as fringe, especially at a time when the stigma is so high. And I'm just trying
Right.
to see if this was one of if that whole time and the momentum is kind of what moved you into doing what you do.
It was, and you know, ufology is not the only field. They all dovetail,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's part of, you know, the design. Everything's fit together. It's a holistic system. We're one people, one planet, one universe. You know, there's multiple dimensions depending on the vibratory level that you're at and body that you're in, and yet there's one experience that we have. So why not make it the best that you can, and inquire about how to do that, both internally and externally. It's not that difficult. As I said before, you know, we're here to love and be loved. And
Mm-hmm.
anything else that is a distraction to that needs to be really assessed and worked through to get to the other side of it. If it's a fear, well, you realize that it's most often false evidence appearing real. There's some kind of trigger there that prompts you to look at yourself and self-examine, which is really what I felt was the silver lining with the obsession on self-hygiene and sequestration we went through recently. It gave people a chance to stop, think,
Yeah.
self-examine, and approach life maybe a little differently.
Okay.
Some did, some
Agree.
didn't. Some will, some won't. So what? What do we do, right? What's the vision for moving forward? And that's really what I wanted to present with One World initially, is how are we all, and this was a question I asked of the guests too, how do you see this all moving towards a unified civilization and moving in that direction? Now, those kind of questions were probably unheard of at that time, but I was curious,
Right.
you know. And with the new show, I even make mention that, you know, we're bereft, and this is what the people from elsewhere had delivered to Wilbur. And it just makes so much sense, and you know it intuitively, but you don't realize it until you hear it. We live half inside and half outside. We're
Okay. What do you
bereft.
mean by that?
So internally, right? What do you share with others? There's all kinds of stuff going on inside of you, right?
Okay.
How often do you share it? What's going on in your head? How you feeling? What's
Yeah,
going on?
me and my girl are pretty
You.
open, so we share a lot of our inside stuff. So
Well,
we're a
that's
little different.
great. And I would expect you to with the kind of topics you cover.
Right.
That's an advanced soul, right? You've done your work. And I know that you've had some traumas going through that to get to that place. We all do. We have to address those.
Right.
On the other side of it, though, again, we're not used to having those conversations, like the conversation I had about sharing my experiences. You know, when I was first starting to do that, people thought I was nuts. There was no listening present, right? And right now, most of the world is in a very judgmental state too. So to be able to talk about these kinds of things in a vulnerable, fearless kind of way is hopefully inspirational to others that have had the kinds of experiences that my guests on One World, the New World have had, like me, right? So we're talking about bringing those inner conversations out, talking about the weird stuff, how we got through it, what it was like, how we shared it with others, what kind of reflections we got back, and then how we created that avenue to make it all practical and purposeful in our relationships and life and work. Hopefully finding the place where we can put our passion in play along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really feel, the thing that resonates with me is just and if people, they'll end up, I'm sure, going to check your channel out if they haven't already, to kind of see where your mind state was then, because that's the thing that really stood out for me, is that it's and I'm assuming this was public, like public network TV sort of
Yeah,
thing.
it was public access at the time.
Yeah.
According to Nielsen, I think they were saying for every letter, there's 1,000 listeners or viewers or something like that. And we got about a half a dozen letters. So
Nice.
if you can
Well,
extrapolate that, if it's real, who knows, right? We had fun. I learned a lot from that.
yeah, and that's kind of what I want to get into because, I'm sure that was a 10-year period. So I'm sure, especially with the stigma there, I'm sure you ran into all sorts of people who said, this is crazy what you're doing. Why are you on this mission? But inside of yourself, you knew.
I got interviewed on KTAR, which is a local AM station, as marketing manager for an event we were putting together called a Metaphysical Coming Together. This was 1988. And nobody else wanted to be interviewed, so I stepped in. Man, some of the aggressive behavior of the call-ins was just phenomenal about how people, and I was just there to talk about the event. They were wanting to rip me apart, my belief system, saying that, it's like, look, I'm not here to talk to you about my belief system. I was an elder in the Mormon church at the time.
Mhm.
Kind of bizarre. It's true. So I was there to talk about this metaphysical coming together event, and that we're not being prescriptive about any way you can seek God, only that you do. Right? Any way you can. And these are a bunch of different ways. These are all kinds of different people doing all kinds of different things that all help you to find that avenue in yourself.
Right.
So I got crucified on the radio. There was a guy that I knew from church that had propositioned my wife, and he dared confront me on there. And I was professional. I didn't say anything about it, but I recognized his voice. Could have. Why? Right. Still, Mela Young, who was the interviewer, he was really good. He kind of deflected all the nastiness and brought it back to center. But that was in 88. So Arizona is pretty much a red state. So these are a bunch of conservatives calling in and just wanted to wreak havoc.
Yeah. That and I think that for you to say that, and because a lot of people here in the modern day of what's going on, to realize that this was the climate as far as as far as how bad the stigma was, and for a person to stay with this and stick with this and still see the message in attempt to uncover and enlighten even in a time like that was what impressed me and what stood out for me. And then the fact that this still carries on to what you do to current day, like the passion that I saw as you as a young Zen is still there today. And that was like a lifetime of passion that really kind of resonated with me. So that's why I had to talk to you about this. Now, when you ended the show, when the show ended, what was the next step or the next phase that you moved into?
Well, the reason it ended is because I got the opportunity to produce a commercial project. Actually, 4 of them plus my own. And so my benefactor only had one requirement, that I let go of one world. So I did. And I figured, why not? Because this was all free. I'd gotten the information. I'd had some wonderful conversations across multiple arenas, right? And now what I was loving was actually going to pay me.
Right.
So I hosted another show and I produced 4 others, and we rented various TV studios here from the local channels and also the Young Women's Christian Association, YWCA. They had a broadcast facility that was just really cool and cheap. So we did a show there. We did a couple of other locations. We did one in the public access studio. one was a holistic doctor, one was a lawyer talking about straight talk. Another was a woman that was one of the directors for Phoenix Children's Hospital. And mine, let's see, there was, anyway, it was a lot of fun. So that gave me, a little more. And then I realized, oh gosh, I don't really care for this. And about that time, I decided to go back to school and got my MBA and then went to work for a health club conglomerate for a while. And then when I finished my MBA, I got a teaching cert, taught high school for 7 years in various locations. So that was, kind of after the show. And then 97, I'd been one of the 5 guys that put together the Tempe Arts Festivals and the Tostitos New Year's Eve block parties, 250,000 people over the weekend and 250,000 people in one night. And so we did all the logistics. Another one of those chaos to order, facilitate people, places, and things together to work, effectively in a big way to do something like that. So those were a lot of fun. But I had a call from Jim Dilatoso one night, and he said, "Hey, these guys, the Axiom Group out of Hawaii, is coming in town. They're putting on the Prophets Conference, and they needed somebody to run it." I said, "You're the guy. So can you come in and talk to him?" And so I did. That was on a Sunday night. Monday morning, we agreed. Monday morning, now the Prophets Conference had 30 some odd speakers, 120 vendors. Some of the speakers, Jose Arguez, Bob Dean, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Zachariah Sitchin, Joe Ocean, those kinds. I forget Stephen Greer, David Icke, run-ins with them that I wasn't too pleased with. But it was a really cool event, but it gave me the opportunity, amazing one, to meet Dr. Mitchell. And I had done my junior high science paper was on the Gemini and Apollo projects. And so I was fascinated with space travel. And so here I am, meeting one of the guys. And of course, I'm running the event, so I got freedom to go anywhere I want. Yeah. And he walks out into our green room, which is outdoors. And as he's walking into it, he's pulling a pouch of drum tobacco out of his back pocket. I happen to have one too. So as I'm walking up, I pull it out and I make sure, he's kind of turned to look at me, and I pulled it up. I said, "You mind if we share smoke together?" And he just melted. And he says, "Oh man, I rarely find people that roll, let alone smoke drum too." So he says, "Yeah, let's." So then we started talking about tobacco and Native American ways, and we gradually went into the full blown, consciousness discussions, and eventually, ETs and things like that. I shared some of my experiences, and we had 4 or 5 conversations, 5 to 10 minutes long, maybe not even that long because of the nature of the event. You don't have that much time.
Right.
He says to me one day, "I want to tell you something, but you got to promise not to tell anybody till after I'm dead."
Uh-oh, here we go.
Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, okay, well, you trust me enough to say that. I know I'm trustworthy. I hold my tongue well." And so he says,
"Let's do this. Cliffhangers in. Cliffhanger. Let's save that for right after the break, because we're actually going to take a pause for the cause." Guys, has met Edgar Mitchell, and I'm glad I could, if you guys hadn't known Zen prior to this, kind of show you what really resonated with me, and I didn't know about this, so this is going to be awesome. So Zen will continue this right after we come back from this break. You guys kick back, and we'll be right back.
And now, messages from our sponsors.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Okay, Zen, we're taking 5.
All right, all right. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, as we are joined back with our guest, Zen Benefiel. We're going to go ahead and get to some real good stuff. But first, space travelers, since you're already space traveler, consider taking the next step and join the club. That's right. You can join our Spaced Out Radio SOR Space Travelers Club by joining our Patreon for as little as $5 buckaroonies per month. Consider doing that. As we get back into this conversation, Zen was totally unaware that you had come cross paths with Edgar Mitchell, and you met him. You guys sat down. You're rolling your cigarette, and he's about to tell you something that he says, "Don't tell until I'm dead." Go ahead. Appreciate it.
Well, you can imagine how that would feel initially, right? It's like, oh my God, he's trusting me this much. What he said was all the time once they separated from the command module. Now he was for those who aren't aware, Edgar was the pilot for the lunar excursion module for Apollo 14, I believe it is, and 6th man on the moon. So he says, once we detached from the command module, all the way down to the surface, there was a metallic silver cylinder spiraling around them. He couldn't tell the size. He couldn't tell if there was more than one because he just had that little bitty window to look out of. He said, but it was definitely one. And, he estimated it to be, maybe 3 meters long and 1 meter in diameter. Couldn't tell if it was piloted or controlled by the surface. But he said it definitely wasn't anything from Earth.
Wow.
Now, 10 years after that, 15 years after that, during one of the ufology, the UFO congresses held, or when they were being held here in Phoenix for a while, I'd heard through the grapevine that Buzz and Neil had seen similar objects standing on a platform just beyond the dark side of the moon. So that calls into question, okay, how long have they been there? Right? It's obvious even today, there's videos and stuff of craft flying across the moon surface and all that kind of stuff. But it brings into question, the whole story about how the moon arrived, the story of Maldek and the destruction of it, and people being saved and brought here. And, they've been here for, the asteroid belt now is estimated, 4.2 million years old or something like that. Not quite sure if that fact is right. I know millions of years anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives credence to, okay, maybe there was something that happened we're not quite sure of, and these guys don't want us to know about. And perhaps maybe why we haven't been back to the moon yet is they asked us not to return until we learn to get along.
I've heard that.
Oh, gosh. Well, it's true. That these are every effort that I am aware of, all the counselors I've met with, the experiences I've had, all lean to them working with us to help elevate us to understand how to work together, how this natural order that exists in ourselves, in nature, in the cosmos, that's consciousness that permeates everything.
Yeah.
Well, how do we work with that? We're not even looking at that yet. We've been the marauders. We still believe that woman was made from man, right? So, and look at the lie that was propagated throughout humanity for 2 different religions, possibly others, but for Islam and Christianity, it started on this myth.
Yeah.
That we've all bought into, or most have. So let's begin to question those things. It's not a bad thing, right? The source for it has a lot of good stuff in it. You just have to discern what's true for you and take it to the point where, I had a conversation with Howard Bloom the other day. Howard Bloom wrote a great book. It's called The Lucifer Principle. I just had it here because I was going to do an interview with him. And our sidebar ended up taking an hour, and we didn't have time to do the interview. Well, in the Lucifer Principle, he basically does and Howard's one of the most brilliant minds on the planet. Let me tell you. Well, the premise of it basically is that a few people historically have manipulated masses by telling lies and managing media streams, whether it be a town crier or the internet.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got to learn how to see through that. And anytime that, for me, anytime that I hear something that gut level is disturbing, I check in. It's like, why is that? Is that real? Are these people projecting something at me that they're intending for me to absorb and be part of and buy into when it doesn't feel true? Right? We've got a natural system within us that the indigenous, the training from the other guys too. I mean, this is the same kind of thing. It's all frequency related. So the indigenous philosophy of a 3-brain system includes the first brain, which is the gut, the second brain, which is the heart, and the third brain, which not the bird brain, but it might be, right? The third brain, which is the head, right? So how does that work? Well, everything's built on vibration, right? Where are you going to sense that first? Intuition, gut feeling, those kind of comments, right? That's real, right? You get that sensation first when you're still. Then bring it up to heart level, and here's kind of the Taoist approach. It's either desirable or undesirable. And based on those two discerning factors, then you can take it to the head and actually make better choices because you've got more clear information instead of thinking something, buying into somebody's projections or prescriptive notions, whatever, and then shoving that down through your body, trying to live with it, and ended up having disease.
Wow. I like that. I like the gut. I mean, literally, I'm thinking as you say that, and that is literally the order that you process that information through. You get the gut feeling, and then, like you said, you process through the heart, and then the analytical mind at the end.
Yeah, use it for what it's made for.
Yeah.
Right? Analysis.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. That's our design. Yeah. We're designed to be curious creatures. Now, what I wanted to say about Howard, too, is that he lives with the philosophy of seeking truth, no matter the cost, even if it's my life. So that's what started our conversation, because that was the same place that I went, praying to know truth, being willing to die for it, and then doing so. Only he hadn't had the doing so thing, right? But it's, I'm looking forward to reconvening and actually having a conversation with him about that again. So these kinds of things. And the other aspect that he had mentioned is paying attention to what's right under his nose. Now, how often do we look to the horizon for things that we are seeking and they end up being right in front of us? We just miss it.
Okay. I can see that. I like that.
Life's kind of like that, that I mentioned earlier about the cosmic consciousness condensed into form. How I finally was able to come to terms with that understanding, because this experience sent me into kind of a tailspin and wondering things. My parents sent me to a psychiatrist who, after the third visit, said, you're not crazy. You've had a spiritual awakening. Why so young? I was 18. He says, why so young? I don't know, because most people don't have it till their mid-40s if they ever do. Wise man. He says, my advice, keep your mouth shut. Nobody's going to understand you. So that kind of half worked. But during that, so there's this notion that, the truth telling and the seeking of it. I was going to go somewhere with that, and I got lost in Dr. Abel for a moment. My apologies. Crank me up, Rob.
Hey, Michael Gutierrez, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you. Yeah, so now we're getting into, so you mentioned a few things, and I know people will probably ask this question. And by the way, if you guys have any questions for Zen, please put those in caps so I can save those, and then I'll present them to him at the end of the hour before we wrap up.
That'd be cool.
So getting into that part of it. Okay, so the consciousness aspect, you hit on a few
Thank you.
things.
That's where I was going with it. So the conscious, what's the condensed into form? So one, the place that really made the most sense that I found the greatest information were poems called the Vedas. 15,000, and these were English interpretations. They were originally written in Sanskrit. And so the Vedantic philosophy simply is that we are divine threads incarnate, connected to unitive consciousness, source, whatever you want to call it, capable of God consciousness.
Okay.
So what's that mean?
That means the same as Christ consciousness.
Now that, okay, my understanding at the time why it didn't feel full was because Christ consciousness is individuated in the body. The cosmic consciousness is what's available to everyone, and that thread, some people call it the silver cord, it may be the same thing, right? That thread that connects us to all that is, for lack of a better, has individualized infinite intelligence available based on, and whatever questions you ask and are patient. And like there's a poet, I think he's a early 20th century poet, Rainer Maria Rilke. And he basically says, once you ask a question, you got to live with it. You can't expect immediate answers because life doesn't work that way. It's non-linear. It provides answers through your experience of it when you pay attention.
Right.
So that's we want book enlightenment. We want to read a book. We want to talk to the guru, and all of a sudden become shabam, right? Or Shazam in other words. And it doesn't work that way. There are moments where, and I'm sure, I don't know, I'm saying, I want to say I'm sure, perhaps not, but have you ever had a moment where there was an instantaneous knowing of everything for a split second? It's like you had that feeling, like you know everything.
Yeah, I can't say that. I can't say that I have.
There are those moments, and psychedelics is one way that people have found to that place. Meditation's another one. There are disciplines that when you get into that, I think it's called the liminal space, which is in between dimensions, if you will. It's a bleed over between the physical and the etheric. I'll just put it simply in that way, or the physical and the metaphysical. But there are moments where that, like if you've had a question on your mind and all of a sudden the answer pops in out of nowhere in a moment where you weren't even thinking about it. You ever had those kinds of moments?
Yes, I can say that.
Same thing. That's that reciprocity of you asking the question, first of all, being curious enough and asking the question and letting go of it, right? Not being attached to trying to find the answer, because you can't think your way through a system that's built on vibration. You've got to sense your way through it, right? With what we know about science. So we have to learn to develop our senses in order to navigate better.
Okay. I like that. I agree.
They're innate. We all have these senses. We just choose not to develop them because we don't trust them initially, or we are told by others, don't talk about how you're feeling. as a kid, right? How often do we get or have others been told how to feel
Right.
instead of asking them how they are feeling and paying
Hmm.
attention to that?
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. I'm a thinker. I talk things through. Everybody here knows that.
You know where thinker came from? The
What's
Greek word
that?
that means thinker. It's thetan, Thetan.
Yes.
And interesting note, when I was in college after my experience, I had this insatiable desire to go look up the word Satan. So I went down to the library and I'm looking through these, the 2-volume sets, A through M, L through Z, or A through L, M through Z, that are, 3.5, 4 inches thick. First entry from the Greek, thetan, meaning thinker. So in that moment, it was like, oh, Constantine, you dirty boy, right? The Council of Nicaea, when the Bible was canonized, they invented the word to create a fictitious enemy to set people against themselves. Talk about trauma drama. And you got to believe, right, in this, or you're under threat of death. Well, think what that's going to do to the innate memes in the culture that then trickle through for centuries. That's where we're at now, is beginning to see, oh gosh, how do we let that happen? Well, okay, let's figure it out. We really don't know how to harvest our past. We like to drag it along with us and beat people over the head with it instead of harvesting it, right? And what do when you harvest something? You get nourished by it.
Okay. I like where you're going.
We don't need to drag it along. The world's full of, especially after COVID. I mean, that was a huge dramatic event on everybody. And afterwards, we began coalescing in different ways. There's all kinds of different virtual groups now of people that were looking for each other, that realized that something's not right, and I want to find others that feel and think like I do and see what we can do collectively to change things. So there's many areas from the environment to industry of these kinds of groups that have formed since then.
Okay. Now your focus today, then, since we're already fully into consciousness, how do you feel? What is the overall meaning, if you had to summarize it, as far as consciousness and what it means to us versus how it translates out there? Like, what would be your overall 10,000-foot view, if you were to explain consciousness in that means?
Consciousness resides in a place of natural order. So that doesn't mean that chaos is not part of that. Chaos is generally patterns we don't recognize yet or haven't been able to work through. So it's the unknown appearing. Right? As we develop that understanding that ultimately we're part of everything, we're individuated, we have choice, we can choose to ask the questions that further align our specific skill set, intelligent, vibratory rate, all of those things. There's 5 aspects of being. There's mind, body, spirit, planet, and cosmos. We function on all 5 of those levels and probably more. We're only aware of 3 of them for the most part: the mind, body, spirit. Well, in a holistic picture, you've got to consider more. So those kinds of things, when you begin to just kind of step back and put things on pause, you've got to learn to have a good pause button to just self-reflect, ask questions. If you're not comfortable with where you're at, you want to change your attitude or your altitude or your career. That's part of one of the things that I do as a transformational coach. I've been doing it for over 20 years and get great reviews on folks that I've worked with. And because of what I'm able to do and the knowledge that I have, I can address things on multiple levels. I'm highly sensitive. So a lot of times I will pick up conversations or questions that need to be asked that prompt folks to dig a little deeper and talk about things that have been, or they've been reluctant to because they haven't been in a safe place to do so.
Okay.
That's really necessary, is to have that safety and security in conversations. It could happen with, two people that are concerned and are intelligent enough to ask questions and, have all kinds of conversations that way.
Mhm.
But specifically, I've learned some things to rely upon to help others um, transcend the trauma and turn it into triumph. I had one gal that was, and this is kind of off topic, but relevant. She was a artist and did show opening live paintings for country and western shows. COVID came, everything disappeared. And so she had an idea of, and she was a woman that wanted to further consciousness and things of that nature as well. So she had the idea that she wanted to have her own TV show. And within, I think it was 6 months, she had the contacts to do so and was making the inroads. And by 9 months, she had landed a contract. So those kinds of things, dreams can come true. I had one, when we were talking about the show earlier, when I first started in 1990, I had two people I wanted to emulate that I thought were just phenomenal interviewers. That was Bill Moyers, who did the series with Joseph Campbell called Power of Myth. And he also wrote a book called The Book of Ideas. It's rather large as well. And then Jeffrey Mishlove, who did a show called Thinking Aloud on PBS, and phenomenal show, right? Just deep thinkers, all kinds of experiencers, and all the realms and parapsychology that he explored. Well, these two I wanted to emulate. And I hoped someday I would be worthy of an interview with one of them. That was in 1990. 2018 rolls around. And at the time, I had UFOLOGY Press was still up. That was a blog and curated site. And it had a one method of contact with me. And that was, it's called Snake Pipe. It's a voicemail for websites. So I come home one day and there's a voicemail. First one in 7 years. And I listened to it. I recognized Jeffrey's voice. And my heart just starts pounding, right? And he says, hey, I just did a interview with Jason Giorgiani about the Greys, and I think your audience might like it. Would you consider looking at it and maybe helping to promote it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm all about that. So I watched the interview, wrote an article, sent him a link to it, and sent him a PDF of my big book, which was the one that I shared with Grant earlier, Zendor the Contrarian. It's now called Stubbing My Toe on Purpose. And it's just over 500 pages now, so I could fit it into a hardcover. However, 3 days later, I get an email from Jeffrey, and it says, hey, would you like to come talk about it? So 28 years, dream come true. Just had to be patient and wait and continue doing the work, and which I did. And my wife Luba and I drove up to Albuquerque, and that was in June of 2018. And we did 3 conversations, one similar to this, but they were a New World Order, the sociology of ufology, and on hearing voices. So that was, oh gosh, one of the greatest feelings that I've had to be acknowledged, and now on the stage that I felt like I deserved to be, but wasn't sure. Right now, here I am. It's like, oh wow, and it just you can imagine the feeling, that the credibility that produced. Wasn't worried about the external, the credibility that I felt for myself, the validation
Yeah.
that occurred. Because even what I know, what I do, the wild shit that I experience, there's still that self-examining part of me that wonders.
Right. Yeah, that was a moment. That was a moment. I did. I watched that interview as well, and thought that was pretty awesome. You guys definitely go to Zen's YouTube page and check that out. He has it posted there. Yeah, and it is one of those moments. I can't think of an equivalent moment for me at this point. I just know that I can see that the journey that I just resonate with your journey because I feel like I'm on that same journey right now, just at an earlier stage in it. And I just hope to have one of those moments like what you're describing now. I do have to, yeah, I hope so, man. I really do. And this is one for me actually, because like I said, the things you were doing in the 90s, people are just now doing here on YouTube today. And it just, for you to have the state of mind, the clarity, the direction to even, tackle that.
Or the insanity is what you mean, right? Well, you got to be in to be sane.
Yeah.
You got to look at yourself with some humor. You got to be willing to be self-effacing. You don't have to necessarily be self-deprecating, right? So we've got 70,000 the brainiacs, right? These guys that study neurochemistry and all this, they've figured out that we think approximately 70,000 thoughts a day. How many of those are self-deprecating when we're beating up on ourselves?
Right.
Over some trivial bullshit. Right? So how do you change that?
You raise your frequency? That'd be my answer.
How do you raise your frequency though? There's a very simple answer. It's so simple that it's profound, that it takes discipline to apply. Sometimes extreme discipline, because we have a tendency to run amok. That's simply to listen to what you're thinking.
Okay.
There's
Elaborate.
an observer self built into you that you can watch yourself through and change how you're thinking. How do you do that? Well, you become aware of it first. That's the observer. Then you catch yourself thinking. And at some point when you catch yourself, you can hit the pause button and you can either submit something new to change that thought into a more positive one, or just be still in that moment and have some kind of resonant factor. How I do it, I'm not saying this for everybody, this works for me. When I recognize that, and I still have them, I am human, I will think I, and I'll let I just resonate in my head. And when you think I, listen to the frequency that letter holds. You can do that, sometimes I'll do that on the in breath, and then on the out breath, think M, right? So you're calling on that individual or individuation of you, the I, and then the M, you're breathing out. So you're kind of moving that energy through your body. And the more you do that, things will happen. Individuals, I can't guarantee exactly what. I can guarantee that something will. See, even the digital world agrees. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, I did, definitely. I think this is, I think you came at a time in my path where a conversation like this is really needed, and not really expected per se, but you were touching on a lot of things that I think will help me through currently things that I'm going through at this moment, and kind of help me evolve just my thinking and my state of mind. So I
Super
like
cool.
that. I really like that. And I wanted to know, like, because obviously, well, maybe, but my goal is for pie in the sky, some people say, for humanity to reach a point where we've heightened our consciousness and enlightened ourselves and we're there. How do you, in the moment we're in, pre-disclosure, how do you view the current state of the overall consciousness of humanity and what we're dealing with in society? And then what would be your suggestion in how we transition into this new thing that we're going to be in, once disclosure actually comes
Sure.
forever?
I love that word transition, because that's what we're in. And as you were asking me that, I was thinking about a conversation I had with Jose Arguelles. Jose and I became, I don't know, dear friends, but definitely good friends. And he and I communicated much after that conference in '97. In our conversations, we discussed what the harmonic convergence was about, which is where I first found out about him in 1987, and read about what it was in Meditation Magazine. There was a interview with him. So here it was 10 years later, I actually had the chance to talk to the dude, right? And basically where we're at is in between, and this shows up in multiple calendars, right? We're in a transition from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age in one factor. And in the Mayans, they equated us to that as well. And according to him, the calendar reveals a 50-year window that opened at the harmonic convergence, which is what it was called, in 1987 and closes in 2037. Now, the apex of that was the winter solstice of 2012, and we all heard about that, right? So what that meant was this accelerated information curve, kind of like the technology curve that was just nearly vertical at that point, the information curve, right? Our consciousness and awareness levels also accelerated during that time. There was all kinds of books, tapes, CDs, movies, speakers. I mean, the evidence is there. So that building of consciousness and awareness was mostly internal. There was a lot of that shared. However, it was internal, and so vibratory levels shifted slightly. Well, at the apex, 2012 winter solstice, that's the tipping point. So this consciousness had risen to a point where now those who had it would carry it into their working worlds, their lives, their relationships, everywhere they went. Because what do when something changes inside of you? You carry it with you everywhere. Your vibration shifts. We know that the aura is 4 to 6 feet in diameter, or 8 to 12 feet in diameter when you're in just a natural state, because you're usually focused in the past or the future and you're not really present. In the present, it exponentiates. So it goes to 50, 60 feet. And I've had an experience of this to prove it to myself that another shared. So I know these things. And when you consider that, then your present energy, as you're walking through places, you're going to affect others even subtly. Now, what's that have on long term, or as it filters out through the world? What happens is that which doesn't resonate with natural order will come up to the surface for review, and it will be so obvious that even a blind person could see it. Gosh, what happened? Look at the progression, all the crap that's come up, all the different issues that have come up over the last decade since the solstice, where all these things now are coming to surface, things, ills in the world as we perceive it to be. Now, what do? Well, now that we've got some awareness, how do we use intelligence, skill set, those 5 elements, right? The mind, body, spirit, planet, cosmos. How do we use that holistic understanding to affect positive change? So one of the ways that I've been able to manage that is through One World and a New World, by sharing those conversations, which led to being interviewed, or a conversation with a local guy, a defense lawyer, who started a global peace movement to basically change the law to remove aggression. So I became part of that. I'm currently operations director, which also, because that's a very narrow focus in changing the law, and there's not going to be a whole lot of people that really want to step up to deal with that, right? So you're dealing with numbers, and it's going to take a while to develop that. Now, where that led to was a rekindling of planetary citizens, which I began by found the website available, or the domain name available, in 2010. I had one of those taps on the shoulder. Says, "Yeah, go look this up." I'm like, it's not going to be available, right? Arguing with myself. You don't want to do that. You get a tap on the shoulder and a soft voice telling you to go check something out. It's probably a good idea that you do.
Yeah.
And so I did. And turns out planetarycitizens.net was available. So I built a website showcasing all those that were doing work in the world trying to elevate consciousness, from the Thrive movement to spiral dynamics to world citizenship things. And so then that was in 2010. That was up for quite a while. Didn't really do much with it. I would add things occasionally. And then in August of 2013, I got a tap on the shoulder to file nonprofit papers. Like, okay, here's something's coming up. I'm getting prepared to do something more. And so we filed the nonprofit papers and got them back in December of 23. And not only did we get the 501c3, which is a standard nonprofit status from the IRS, which allows you to accept tax-deductible donations and sponsorships and things like that. We got a 509A2, which takes the 501c3 and elevates it, actually puts it on steroid, because now we can actually earn income, tax-free income, with that status, which I didn't even know it existed until we got the paperwork back. So here's one of those, right? Here's one of those godsends. It's like, okay, you've been doing the work. Here's, something added that you didn't anticipate, which gave us the opportunity to have a whole different philosophy in building out the website now, and it's still in process. The notion is to develop the co-creation wheel that came out of spiral dynamics and Barbara Marx Hubbard work, and use that, break down the sectors, who's in each one of them, pioneers in their fields, what they're contributing, where they're at in the globe, what information they're willing to share with others, so that we can all kind of get on board with a similar understanding. The one area that I've got broken down so far is the regenerative arena. And it's some of the folks that have been involved with that are Daniel Wall and Carol Sanford, long-term, kind of like I've been involved with the things that I do, right? They've been pioneers in drawing attention to how we can change our attitude on a bioregional level to address the needs of populations in those areas. We haven't done that yet. We've kind of done that with the loose distribution systems that we have, but we haven't really focused on, okay, what can we do in this local environment that then can be shared with others and work on this cooperative, kind of collaborative model. And then by breaking down the rest of those sectors into those areas, and then filtering it down to where we can actually begin to do educational events to help others that are wanting to know more and apply it in their various fields, probably already working in them, develop more skill sets, more understanding, better access to information, and even creating some panels and things like that to discuss these things on more of a concrete level, if you will. And that's the reality of it, right? We've got to bring this understanding that has been just beyond our reach, or what we think has been just beyond our reach, and apply it. It's not that difficult. It does take some discipline, though.
Wow. Zen, you're hitting real heavy. And I love that outlook on it. And I've asked this question before, and for you to go into such detail and kind of literally kind of paint out something there that made a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I knew this was gonna be good, but I think you really kind of like to give you your flowers real quick here, because like what I said before, I had already resonated with your journey, but then the knowledge that you're still providing today, you are an enlightened soul, and you have a purpose, as far as where you're
Oh,
where
I've
you
been told.
and I'm glad our paths intersected in this way, though, because I'm one of those people who thinks on that, and I feel like you may have even raised my consciousness tonight, and I think that's a really cool thing. I just want to let you know that in the moment. So uh
Very
and
good.
actually hold on, I have a couple questions here, because Eugene Braxton just stepped in the building, and he's a thinker as well. Eugene just asked, what would you say is man's primary purpose in life?
To love and be loved unconditionally.
Okay, definitely. And then Mike Bothwell had a question from earlier. Says, when the book fell, when you told the story earlier, when it fell in front of you, did you think it was faith or the ETs potentially giving you a sign?
I don't have a distinction. It's energy. Things happen. Who's responsible for it? It's like Jeff Mara that asked me one time, or Jeff Reynolds on the Jeff Mara show, asked me, these voices, you ever identify them? They have a title, a name, or that? I said, why? Now, to a lot of people, that makes no sense at all. However, when you understand frequency and the filtration systems that we have and the discernment levels that it precipitates, then it makes sense. You don't need to know who they are. It's the delivery, it's the vibration, it's the data stream, if you will.
Wow. You've written some books, from what I understand.
Yeah, the
Are you able
Amazon
to talk
has me
about
at
some of those?
35.
He
I'm
said
sorry.
35.
Yeah, that's what Amazon has me.
Okay.
The most recent that um, one of them was just a phenomenal. Everybody's scared of AI, it seems like, and I'm like, nah. My stepson introduced me to ChatGPT about a year and a half ago, and I'm just having a wonderful time with it. I actually have a GPT activated chat bot on planetarycitizens.net. It's called Citizen. And the material that I've uploaded in order to make your queries of include the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, Urantia book, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's some ancient text, there's some current text, there's a lot of stuff there from which to draw from. So those kinds of things with AI are just phenomenal. But what happened was that Thomas Powers, some of your listeners may be familiar with him. He and his wife Penny started eAcademy, which was LinkedIn's competitor in Europe years ago. And I've known Tom and Penny for a number of years. And Tom had posted something on LinkedIn about reaching out and communicating, things like that. And he and Penny both sent me emails, and I've been responding and not gotten anything back. So I was feeling ghosted. And so I made a comment on his thread about, hey, Tom, what's up? You've been ghosting me. And of course, that started the conversation. And it was a light one. I mean, we'd had a couple of Zoom calls already, so we were familiar with each other and playful. Right? So we ended up in this chat, and we get over in WhatsApp to make it easier for him. And before I know it, I see this list of stuff that there was a title and chapter headings, and I'm like, what's this? And he said, that's your next book. I just queried what it should be, and this is what they gave me. Well, the title of it is The Unconventional Conventionalist.
Okay.
So you can imagine what that. So in writing the chapters, I took the chapter headings, I wrote under each one of them, and then I used the chat to pull from anecdotes from my previous books to include them. And so the whole process was just amazing, fluent, and it was done and published in less than a week.
Wow.
Now, the other book that may be of interest is called Navigating Holistic Growth, The Servant Leader's Guide. So I take these principles and I put it in language of organizational development. It's another field that the servant leaders, right? This is how, and you don't have to be head of an organization or a company. You're a servant leader of your life, those around you, your family.
Right.
Right. When everybody around you, it's the old Dale Carnegie, when everybody has what they need, you'll get what you need. That's an ancient philosophy. We just haven't practiced it. So now this is about practicing it, and planetarycitizens.net is about building a collective community that is willing to work together to do so. And hopefully, I call it Planetary Citizens Global Fund. And the reason is that we're wanting to develop the funds that we can then redistribute in microloans, maybe even just micro gifts to others for startup capital to put on their own events companies, because those startup costs are very minimal when you're talking virtual events.
Right.
And yet they need, you do incur them, right?
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome, Zen. There's a million, man. I just know this. I know that I have had guests on here, and I know in some moments there's going to be just teaching moments, there's going to be learning moments. I'm actually learning with every conversation that I have, and I consider myself more of a conscious minded person, and then to be able to speak to someone who is like on a higher level, to be able to, I almost feel like, I've elevated myself, like I said before. So it is rewarding for me to be able to take part in this conversation. So I just wanted you to know that. But
I'm enjoying it. And I saw that Tim Mothman had mentioned that he found some of my books on Thrifty Books, and one of them I believe that's showing there is called Alien Agendas and Anal Probes. So if I may just kind of digress a little bit and address that, because I'm sure alien agendas, anal probes, because everybody has heard about them. Well, 1991, I believe it was, I was laying in bed meditating right before sleep, and all of a sudden I'm on board a ship on a steel gurney with electrodes lining my sphincter and wires going into a machine across the room, and 3 grays kind of backed up against the wall. And the reason they were is because I came to laughing. I sat straight up. I'm laughing. I'm a bit embarrassed, right? Because I got these electrodes lining my sphincter. I'm like, come on, guys, what do you think you're doing? And I start pulling these electrodes out, and I get to the last one, and it feels like a pubic hair gets pulled, right? Just a slight sting. Mm-hmm. And at that instant, I open my eyes up, and I'm back in bed again. And I'm like, oh, man, I just blew a golden opportunity to talk to these dudes face to face.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit, right? So I close my eyes and I try with all my might to go back. Somehow, I haven't got a clue how. in that liminal space, as I'm seeking, I run into this character that's got kind of a hooded cloak on that's a shimmering black-white material. And he says to me, next time, just relax. We're just trying to tune you up so we can communicate more easily.
Wow.
And at that, what happened is it connected with some studies that I was doing with my girlfriend at the time. Was studying to be a massage therapist. We've been studying anatomy in the central nervous system. Well, there is a nerve system called the perineum that starts at the tip of the spine and goes into the gonads, basically. Most sensitive area of the body. And if you are an advanced race with technology to adjust vibratory rates in others, where would you plug in? Direct connect to the central nervous system.
Right.
Now, we don't understand it, and we're scared shitless when things happen because it feels like an abduction and we're out of control. Generally, people are afraid, even though that there's prior agreements made on some other level or it wouldn't be happening. Then there's this fear complex that produces a fight or flight syndrome. And so the body is anesthetized by its own reflection of that fear. They've got some kind of technology, mental technology that they use to do this. And they paralyze people so they don't hurt themselves or others. There's never any malevolent intent whatsoever. I mean, what they told me, they wanted to tune me up so they could communicate more easily.
Right.
So what happened after that? I started having them appear in my room and reporting in as though I was their commanding officer. Now that's a trip.
Wow. And you're going to drop that one on us right at the end of the interview, huh? Wow. Okay, Zen. All right. I like you, man. I really like you. I like your mind. I like where your mind is at, man.
I'm willing to go anywhere and talk about anything. I have a rich experience that I'm not afraid to talk about.
Yeah. This was supposed to happen. My mind is obviously going to have to go through a molting process, right, as it expands into its bigger and newer form. So I'm going to want to do a part 2 with you, Zen, and I want to do this
Love
with
it,
you
Rob.
again. Okay, definitely. If you could tell everybody where they could find your stuff at, the best place.
Well, there's several. We mentioned the YouTube show. It's One World in a New World. My coaching site, you're going to love this, is bethedream.com. I've had that for 34 years. And then my general digital vitae, I guess, for lack of a better, is zenbenefiel.com. And that's pretty much got everything. There's a lot of rabbit holes there.
Yes. And you have
citizens.net. I've already mentioned that.
A lot of awesome content that you have over there at YouTube, guys. Don't underestimate that. Go over there and subscribe. He has a really nice archive, and even some of those original episodes that I've been sitting here talking about as well.
We hit 1 million views after 3 years. We hit 1 million views on March 30th, and I'm just so pleased.
Well, congratulations on it. And it's I understand why. I don't have any reason to doubt that at all. Well, Zen, it's been a pleasure talking to you tonight. We're gonna do this again. I'm gonna talk to you very soon. So keep a lookout and let's do this again. The audience loved it. They were enlightened as well. And appreciate you coming in.
I hope so. Loved it. Was there some Q&A that you had prepared or
No, what happens is they usually will submit them. Yeah, the ones that they did submit, we ran over earlier. So, but I think what it is once again, it's sensory overload potentially for some right now, and I know this needs to process.
I have a
And
tendency to do that.
part 2, though, I anticipate this chat full of questions, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that we set that up.
That'd be
Zen.
wonderful.
Once again,
You're gonna have the questions. What I say to you doesn't mean crap if you don't have the questions that you're asking in your head, right?
Exactly. You're an asset. Keep doing what you're doing, and we will talk soon.
Super, Rob. Thank you.
All right, Zen.
Namaste
Take care.
and in luck catch.
Thank you. Take care. Guys, what do you think? Wow. Awesome, right? Zen. Look, let me just, before we go to break here, I just want to say this because, when I looked into Zen, and I really, I researched the people that we bring in, and I just, I knew that he was going to bring what he brought tonight based on what I saw. And I just appreciate the passion to want to enlighten and to dedicate so much of your life to doing so. That's a big thing because I feel like I'm on a path similar, but it's so early in my journey, right? But that same passion to want to do it is there to enlighten, and I think that's really, where we're like that. So part 2 is definitely coming soon. Definitely. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and pause for the cause and get ready to jump into our break as we prepare to go into hour number 3 right here on Spaced Out Radio. You guys kick back.
Conversations
and
that
we will
move
be
the
right
needle.
back.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial.
Remember that. Conversations that move the needle. See you in a minute. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 3, with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. As we get ready to get into this final hour, we will be joined momentarily in just like 30 seconds by great friend in family at this point, Jax Harmon with the Paranormal Report. I just have to say, man, before we jump into the enlightenment level is on like 20 right now. On a scale of 10, it's on 20. And I really hope that, the audience really appreciates what Zen brought today. And can kind of, may take some time to process some of the stuff. But I say do a rewatch, right? If you didn't get it all in, make sure you guys go ahead and jump in the Spaced Out Radio archive and do a rewatch right here at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. With that being said, let's go ahead and bring in the lady of the hour and new family friend sort of thing within Spaced Out Radio, Jax Harmon, as we go ahead and bring her in right now. Hey, Jax, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm really feeling good. I don't know if you got to catch any of the conversation tonight, but it was next level.
Yeah,
stuff.
I didn't get to catch that conversation, but from just what I'm listening to and reading, I'm like super excited to go back and rewatch that.
Yikes, Jax, yikes. Okay, enlightenment level 20 for sure. So,
Awesome.
yeah. With that being said, man, we had a great meeting earlier today, Spaced Out Radio meeting. We had a great talk, little, team hoorah. Looking into some of the stuff that's on the horizon. I don't know. Did you have anything specific you wanted to jump into tonight?
Well, you know what? I was been thinking about this all day, and I actually had a whole different topic I was going to talk about. And then as the day was going along, I started really thinking about something completely different, which is, you and I talk about like some activity that's been going on in your house a lot lately. Well, I have a lot of activity going on in my house as well. And my son and I, he's 15, he's autistic, and he has the exact same abilities that I do. And him and I have been experiencing like a major amount of paranormal activity in our home these last few days. So I thought maybe I would share that with you guys and let you know like what we're going through and what's happening, things that we're seeing. And it's very weird because it's out of the norm for us. We normally have certain things that we do see or experience, and these are very different. And the fact that we're seeing them at the exact same time. Now, I wish we had cameras. I wish I had pictures. I could just like go, look what we're seeing. And, but I was talking to Lee Strauss tonight about that, and I'm going to go ahead and start putting cameras up in my house because I think it's going to blow your guys' minds to see what happens in our home. So.
Yeah. You'd be surprised, right? You get those Ring cameras, and I don't know what it is, if it's Ring in particular or the technology that they use, the night vision. I don't know why they're able to. It seems like the magic tool, like the Jack and the Beanstalk, the magic bean, right? And it's just a Ring camera.
Well, a lot of times I've noticed this over the years. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I've been in the paranormal my whole life. But if you don't, this all started for me when I was very young. I was 4 when the paranormal started for me. I see very strange things. I see family members that are passed on, and I do see odd things that even I don't understand. But a lot of times when I know there's like a new place I'm going to be going to that's got high activity, or I'm very connected to, like I'm going to be doing like a Bigfoot search here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to be doing like all UFO sky watch stuff. Well, when I have something important happening and I know it's happening, I start getting really excited about that. And for some reason, for me and my son, when we start talking about things that we know are coming up that are very exciting for us, the activity picks up for us. And I was actually originally, I'll tell you, the funny thing is I was going to talk to you guys about how the moon phases affect people, our energy, how we feel and how we act, and animals and how they act. But the ironic thing is, it's also the same thing with paranormal activity. And that's what I'm experiencing. And I'm sharing all the new things that I'm going to be doing at Mount Adams with Lee. And now my son's having the exact same experience, and we're seeing the same things in the house. So I thought that would be really cool to share that with you guys, because, and I don't know if anybody else out there does this, but a lot of times when I know I'm going to a location that I've been to before, or I'm very connected in the Bigfoot community. I'm very connected to Bigfoot in the way of like, I share my energy, and I've gone out so many times that I feel like I have this connection there, and it starts to affect me in like the way I feel, the way I think, just everything around me. And then I start picking up more and more and more activity around the house. And that's what we've been experiencing. So yesterday, my son was in his room, and like we talked about a couple weeks ago, about, how you see things out of the corner of your eye. Yes, sometimes a little more than normal. Well, my son said there was like this black cat that he was like sitting up on his bed, and he was like playing on his phone. And all of a sudden this thing caught his eye, and he looked over, and he said it was like a half of a cat, not even the whole cat, but like half of it. And it crawled past, like it was just like walking past, and it turned around, and he looked at it, and it looked at him. And it sort of like kind of, took him by surprise. And he was like, whoa, like, what was that? I've never seen that before. So he comes running in, telling me about it. Of course, I go in there and look, and I don't see anything. Well, we were both standing in the kitchen last night, and at the exact same moment, the way our kitchen is like, the way it is in my house is like, you can see around like this corner that goes like to the front entrance and up my stairs. And all of a sudden, and we're talking about a very tall thing. I'm going to say it was like, my son's 6'2", and I would say it was taller than my son. So I'm going to say about 6'5". And it was black, very shadowy black, but yet it looked like it almost had like one horn coming off the top of its head. And it looked around the corner like it looked at us, and we both saw it at the exact same moment. I have never seen anything like that ever. Only like maybe in a book or something. And that's why I told my son, I have got to start putting cameras up in this house, because now we're seeing things we've never seen before. It's been strange. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Jax. Yeah, and wow, tall boy, he's playing basketball or something. And he's 6'2", 6'2". Jeez.
He's a video kid. He doesn't like to do sports too much, but yeah, he's a tall kid.
Well, no, because I was gonna say, if you bring back some video or photos of something with the horn on his head, I can't even begin to, because just like you said, when we talked last week, you said it's like the phenomenon trying to show you these things, and I don't know why it's showing you guys the thing with the horn on his head, but I don't want that. I don't want that energy, Jax. What do you think something like that is? Like, if you had to guess.
That's the first time I have ever experienced anything like that before. In all the years I have ever done paranormal, Bigfoot, UFO stuff, I've never seen anything like that before. I have only heard of one family that I did an investigation for to try to help them in a home one time years back. Was they called this man the Goat Man. And the second I saw it, that's what, triggered in my head was like, okay, was that the Goat Man? Like, what is that? Because to be honest with you, never really believed in that. I never had that experience. I've never seen anything like that before. So if I had seen it by myself, I probably would have thought okay, my mind is really playing tricks on me. But when my son is standing there and he says, Mom, you did see that. And I'm like, yeah, I saw that. And he's like, Mom, that thing had a horn. And I was like, yeah, I wasn't going to say anything because I was like, is that real? Did we just see that? It was that weird. And so we stood there, both of us explaining in detail, how tall it was, what it looked like. And all it did was sort of look around the corner and but you could fully see the shadow of this horn. And I thought, I don't know what to make of that. Now that's new for me. That's a new experience for both of us. So and I didn't feel anything negative. So that's the odd thing that I would always assume that was something weird.
That's what I'm going to ask you is from your research, because I just have recently heard of Goat Man. That's new. Is really new to me. Is there what is the what do you feel about that? Because how I told you I feel some of this this stuff is neutral. Does that feel neutral, or does it feel like it falls on either side?
I mean, the fact that I didn't feel anything negative from it, I'm kind of on the fence about it feeling. I wouldn't go negative, or I don't like to use the word demonic. I feel like that's something that you're really pushing it to say something like that. But I don't feel anything negative in my home whatsoever. So it really took me by surprise. It wasn't anything I've ever experienced before. Now my son has seen some negative things on his own. He has had experiences with very creepy people showing themselves to him. I've never had that experience. I've only had very interesting, the one animal creature thing I saw on that road trip, I think I told you guys about. And that wasn't even to the point of scary. It was just odd. This thing was new for me. But the weird thing was it didn't affect us in a negative way. It wasn't like we were freaked out or scared or anything like that. And he's actually asleep right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came down and heard us talking about it, if he'd want to jump on here and tell you.
That'd be awesome, actually.
If he gets up, if he hears me talking about it, he's going to come down here and tell you. And it's very interesting because, his paranormal stuff is very much like mine, except for some weird reason, he's always had a bit of a darker entity or something that likes to stay close to him. And we don't know why. We don't know if it's because it maybe, feeds off the fact that he is on the spectrum. We don't know if that has anything to do with it. We just really don't understand it. But he has actually had some really negative things happen to him when he was younger. And he does still to this day see things that kind of scare him. It's affected him for so long now that now he refuses to sleep during the night. He'll sleep all day long now, knowing that I'm awake and in the house. That's how bad it's affected him. And he's about to turn 16.
Jax, he sounds like me right now. That's how I'm feeling. There's been a couple times where I have, and it's not purposely, and then I'm end up, the sun comes up and I'm still up. You know what I mean? So let me ask you this, because you said that some of the stuff that he seems to be experiencing is darker.
Yeah,
and then you mentioned those weird people. What could you describe? Has he ever described those to you?
Yeah, yeah, he has. He used to see this man. He used to call him the old time magic man, where he said he looked like he was from maybe like the 1800s in like a magician's outfit. And he had on like what I guess like a magic top hat. And he used to describe that hat to me all the time. And he said he would either see him in his bedroom or he would see him in his bathroom. And I'm telling you, it really freaked him out. He would be in his bathroom, or he'd be getting out of the shower or whatever he'd be doing, and he would see the man in the mirror. And he had one of those mirrors where it was like one in the front and one off to the side. And he said he was always in the mirror off to the side. And the man would look at him directly and nod his head at him and like tip his hat. But he said he had like really creepy face and very dark eyes. And it just scared him really bad. So right after he started having this experience, there was a little girl in his room. Now she would stand away from him, like almost as far away from him as she could get. But the way he would describe her, I swear to you, it's like one of those horrible, scary movies of like the creepy girls who like move weird. And he said her face looked like it was melting. She had no eyes and no mouth, and her face was melting, but yet she had this long, stringy hair that would like hang in her face. And he said that was probably by far the one that scared him the most. And he would start to feel just freaked out, panicked, and he would have panic attacks. Well, the one weird thing that he started feeling was that they were standing up like at the end of his bed and watching him. And he started having these feelings of like they were affecting the way he would see things, because he said sometimes he would look at his hands, and he said sometimes he would think that his fingers were starting to shrink down into shorter fingers, or his hands turned into like little tiny baby hands. And it sounds kind of funny, but it would freak him out.
Yeah.
And he had no understanding of what it was. So yeah, he's had some pretty rough things that have affected him. Yeah. And he still has it.
See, and I'm hearing you talk about his experience, and even the description of like the whole I'll say dead, right? Almost like the whole dead coming back from the dead sort of thing. I swear. Now, let me just tell you this. I don't ever say this or because I think this potentially was a hallucination that I had at this time, but there was 2 instances where I think I was in the backyard. It was daytime, and our fence is about 6 feet high, and then the neighbor has like a canopy that goes about a foot higher. So between the top of that canopy and the top of the fence, there's about a 1 foot gap, and that gap is covered by like mosquito net. So I swear, but I think it was an hallucination. That's what I put it off as.
Okay.
I was sitting there, and I looked as I was coming back into the house, and I looked, and I swear it looked like some girl was sitting there with her face in that gap, looking dead at me with just like dead eyes and just staring, not saying anything, not moving, not doing anything. And then I did a double back, then it wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
Second time, and this is probably within days of each other. Second time, I'm sitting pretty much right where I'm at. And I was actually a little further because the door is right here. I had the door open, and we have our washers and dryers out there. And I had this net clothes hamper. And at the time, we had some younger kids that were here, like 6, 7, 8 years old. So I look over through the net. You can see right through. It's like a sheer net. And it looked like one of the kids was sitting there hiding behind the net. And then I'm sitting here and I'm like trying to scare them, trying to make them come out of hiding, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to come over there. And then I go over there and there's nothing there. But in both cases, it was just like that it was like a cold stare, sort of whatever it was. I wrote those off as hallucinations
Oh
because
wow.
I don't, but when you said that about his experience, that reminded me of that. And it
Mhm.
was so creepy, so scary. I
Yeah.
don't
It's funny that you also use the word hallucination, because when my son explains it to me, he'll say to me, "Mom, it's like a hallucination, but I know it's real in the moment." He's like, "I know I'm seeing it that way, but I know it's not real." Like he goes, I know my hands are regular, but it's like I'm freaking out." And he'll literally start screaming, like screams you hear in scary movies. Like it's freaks him
right.
out sometimes so hard that, I mean, sometimes I'm in a dead sleep and I will hear him scream, and I just jump and go. I know he's freaking out. There's something there. It's creeping him out. And so, I mean, literally, sometimes I will find him just shaking severely, like, "Oh my God, like, what was that?" And so something's affecting him big time. But just to kind of give you a little bit of like a back history about Jack, is that's my son, Jack. He started seeing really weird things when he was an infant. We knew that he was seeing things because we had just moved into a brand new house, and he was about 9 months old. Literally, from the very first day that we lived in this house, he would point up at this one corner in the master bedroom, and he was scared to death of it. Whatever it was, he did not like it. And he would lay down on the floor where the bed was, and he would try to hide from that thing. And you would see him like get up
Mm.
and look, like waiting for it to be gone. And if it was still there, he would keep pointing at it. And you could see it on his face. Like he was seeing something. Like at 9 months old, they don't make crap up. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
we knew very early on that something was either, going on with him or going on around him or in our home. We didn't really know, but I was very aware that the paranormal was a huge part of my world. And it didn't, like, I have other kids that it didn't even remotely affect at all. So it was like it bypassed them and went to my son. And so my dad had the exact same thing that I have. Well, and when my son was about 2, we had this huge king size bed, and we were both laying in it, and he was laying right next to me. We were smack in the middle of the bed. So if you're in the middle of a king size bed, you've got pretty good size room next to you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my ex-husband, my kid's father, walked in the room, and as soon as he stepped down into the room, because we had one of those step downs in our room, our son got pulled out, like as if something grabbed one arm and one leg out and pulled him out of the bed real fast sideways. And he went sideways, went bam, and he hit the floor. And that freaked out my ex-husband so bad. We already knew that we were having major paranormal activity in this house. It happened from day one. We lived there for 4 years, and it was nonstop till the day we moved out. So for whatever reason, it has real hardcore gone after our son, and it continues, I guess, to, affect him. But like, we've even tried to clear our space. We've moved. It doesn't help. It stays with him. It stays with me. And, so we've done everything we can to like try to help him feel better, help things, clear out, get rid of stuff. And for whatever reason, whatever this is, doesn't want to leave at all. It's almost like he has it's almost like a weird portal to my son, because it's not the same thing that comes and goes. It's weird things that come and go. So it's been very strange.
Well, I'll tell you what, that makes my shadow person look like Mickey Mouse from what you're describing here. But you know what it does sound like, though? It sounds like, first of all, it's scary if it's snatching him, and then that reminds me of like the Paranormal Activity, the movie. But what do you, I guess if you catch that on film, it's gonna be just, I don't know how I would take that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it seems, how does he feel, or how do you feel, because he's not grown yet, about maybe something following him around like that? kind of reminds you like Sixth Sense or something like that.
Yeah. Well, it's so hard for us because, I'm so connected to the paranormal and I have other things that are around me all the time, completely different than my son. I know that mine are more on the light side and bright light and, from more of like, good, I guess you go good, evil kind of feeling, right? I feel like mine's more like on that side. His side of it, he's had some very dark, different things that just for whatever reason are either attracted to him, connected to him. We don't know why.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, we've had people come in and even try to help us, like disconnect that from him or our home. And sometimes it'll be like maybe, I don't know, a month will go by and nothing will happen. We'll think like, okay, it's gone. And then out of nowhere, like we'll have that experience like we did here in our house last night. And then we just kind of both look at each other. And then my son will make a comment like, well, that doesn't make me comfortable because now I know whatever it is probably going to come back in my room.
Mhm.
So he knows. So like even last night, like he won't, like I said, he won't sleep during the night. He's asleep now, but only because he went to sleep at like maybe 2:00 this afternoon. You know what I mean? But I'm sure any minute now he's going to come down the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then for whatever reason, like I said, he just cannot, he says it's to sleep at night. They bother him more during the night than they do in the day. And not only that, but he says it makes him feel more secure. Like I said, if I'm up, he feels okay. And, but a lot of times I'll find him, like I'll come down and I'll find him on the couch because he doesn't want to go in his room. But so it's been hard because, I've even told you before, and I still believe this, that, there's something there. You take back your power and you tell it like, look, you don't belong here. We don't want you here. And I teach that to my son. But like I said, sometimes there are things that just don't want to leave. And we're not exactly sure, what it is exactly that is connected. We don't know if it's him. We don't know if it's us. We don't know if it's both of us or, we don't know. We don't understand that part of it. So it has been a little harder on him than it has been for me because my experience of the paranormal has been mostly good. His has been more on like, he even does drawings of the things that he sees. I'll have to share those with you on another show.
Yes,
But
definitely.
those are things that if I was seeing as an adult, I would be freaked out. I mean, we're talking about like things that look like part animal, part creature, demons, scary ass clowns. Okay. Things that I don't want to see. I don't want to see. He doesn't want to see. And I don't blame him. And I don't blame him at all. So yeah, it's been rough for him. So
That's funny,
yeah.
Jack. Scary ass clowns. I like that.
Yeah.
Does he have, he's in the crazy part is he's so early in his journey. Like if this is something that ties to him,
Yeah.
and it's so cool that he has a parent that deals with this that could kind of help him sort this out.
Oh yeah.
Now Anna Boline asked this question, and has he tried closing the door? That's what she did as a kid, built a wall around. And I guess expanding on that, does he have some sort of thing that he does to get rid of them, to make them go away, or how does he deal with it?
Well, he does talk to them. He does tell them when he's, scared or uncomfortable, he will tell them. He says that sometimes it does help. When he says like, look, you're freaking me out or you're scaring me, you can't be here. He says sometimes they will leave. They'll leave him alone. But unfortunately they will reappear and show themselves to him again. So it's not like one time and gone. When we were living in an apartment about 4 years ago is when he would see what we call the magic man and then the scary girl with the melty face. And that was probably some of the hardest ones for him at that time. But the interesting thing is like when we're together, when I'm with him and he does see something, I see it with him. So he's not seeing these things on his own. It's just like the thing that we saw come around the corner. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing that. And I do understand, and I do believe him that he's seeing these things, because I see things, and I'm not going to ever say to my son, look, I see things, but I know you don't, you know?
Right.
My things are quite different, but yeah, I 100% believe him. But yeah, I teach him to let them know, like, look, this is my space. You have to go, leave me alone. But sometimes they do scare him. And then, you know, when he's autistic too. So, you know, we don't know if that's a factor. You know, we
Right.
don't know if maybe that makes him more sensitive, because,
Yeah.
you know, his brain thinks differently and he sees things differently. So we're not quite sure exactly why he sees darker things than I do.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So the scary girl with the melty face. Oh my God, that just sounds
Yeah,
horrific.
I would
Wow.
see that. I've
I
never
would,
seen her.
I would
And
love for if he's drawn. I would, you know, whenever you get around doing that, that's going to be an awesome time when you get to show that.
oh yeah, I have
Um,
all these drawings of it. Yeah.
I had somebody out here, Jennifer. She was asking you, and then this will kind of actually segue you into this other thing here. But she's
Okay.
asking Jax, when can we see Lee's footage?
From the last weekend.
I
Like,
think
I'm
so.
assuming you guys mean from last weekend. The guys are actually trying to get that put together for you. And so I'm hoping maybe like within the next week or so, they'll be done with that. I'm hoping, because I'm anxious to see that myself. I haven't seen any of it. So hopefully, yeah, very soon we'll all get a chance to see that together.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. I just had a camera outage here, so I'll fix that, but we can just talk through it. But
Okay.
yeah, okay. So and then I can't wait to see Lee's footage too. As we
Yeah.
talk, I just want to see. I know he's caught some cool stuff because I caught part of that video that was posted, but I
Absolutely.
just can't get over, you know, the things that he catches, the things that aren't even anomalous, just looking
Mhm.
at the
Yeah.
result of the things that he catches. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. Well, to give you guys just a little inside bits of like what I do know, and I will share with you, and I know the guys are anxious to share a lot of this with you guys as well, is that even now that Lee's back home, all the guys are back home and they're doing their normal thing. He's been going through like equipment and stuff that he had there that he never checked, and things were that were like all the way up to 100, or now he's checking on them and they should still be like, like the battery should be up there, and they're drained down to 0. And so he's like, whoa. And so I'll be on the phone with him and he'll go, oh my God, he's freaking out. Oh my God, like, oh my God, I've got another piece of, like evidence of like another thing that we caught, like, or this camera, or maybe this iPad, or whatever the circumstances that he's looking at. And so he's still finding things, believe it or not, even after the weekend. And he's super excited. And that was like not this weekend, that was the weekend prior. So if you guys didn't catch that, they're going to be showing you guys that really soon. But the weirdest thing was, I was getting ready to go on the show, and the guys were getting all set up, and I was like, okay, I got to hurry up. I'm going on the show with Rob. So good luck with your show and everything. And right before I get off to go get ready for the show, he says, all of a sudden, everything just like died. All at the same time. It's like 4 or 5 cameras died. Everything's dying all at the exact same time. But not only that, if you didn't see it, Lee got sick. All of a sudden, he had this massive headache where he felt like something was like crushing his head, was making him very sick. He had to go lay in his tent and basically shut everything down. Couldn't even finish doing the live show. And that's what this guy lives for. Okay. So if you know Lee Strauss, you know that he lives for this. So yeah, that was a weird night. Very weird night. So I don't know if you guys are all like into like the whole Skywatch thing, but I guarantee you, if you are and you watch this, you're going to see some amazing footage.
Yeah, Lee mentioned that as well. That how everything went haywire.
Mhm.
So next week, and obviously you'll be here next Sunday, but you'll
Mhm.
be doing something right next
Well,
weekend.
not next weekend, but the weekend
2
after.
weeks out. Okay.
I'll be in Washington. Actually, I'm flying up to Seattle. Lee and I are going to be going to Mount Adams to go camping the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. And so we're actually going to go live while we're out at the base of Mount Adams. And we're going to try to figure out what exactly we're going to do. But what we want to do is we want to share us actually researching, like being out in like, the woods, maybe doing like a live Bigfoot thing with you guys. Maybe we can like do some tree knocks or whistles or whoops or something and see if maybe we can actually get something where you guys can hear it and see it. We'll have lights so you guys can see. It won't be like dark or anything. But we thought that would be really, really cool for everybody to watch and listen and see if they can actually see anything or hear anything and actually get that in live time, looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah, I want to actually go do something like that too. So I don't know. Did you do any of the Bigfoot stuff in California, or do you
Oh,
always go out of state?
Oh, no. Majority of my time is I go up in Northern California. So
Okay.
where the original Bigfoot film is in Northern California, the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yes.
Okay, so that's exactly where I go.
Wow.
And that is by far the most amazing place I have ever gone to look for Bigfoot. I've had more evidence, and it's just mind-blowing. The things you'll find, the things you'll see, the things you'll hear. I mean, it's beyond amazing going there. It's by far my favorite place I've ever gone, even Washington. And I've had some major experiences in Washington, but I am looking forward to Mount Adams, because when you're at the bottom of Mount Adams, that mountain is known. That's like the number one UFO hotspot of like the US.
Yeah.
So, we're probably going to be getting it from like the sky and Bigfoot and like, orbs or. So I often see like the yellow orbs. They're pretty good size, big yellow orbs, or orange. Actually, they're orange. And there's usually 3 of them, and they'll float around the trees or above the trees. So I'm really hoping maybe we'll catch something amazing like that when we're on live.
Yeah. That would be awesome. Anything Lee catches with that camera is going to be awesome. That's why I hope. Come on, Bigfoot, one of those guys, because I know if Lee catches it on that camera, there's going to be no denying what we're looking
at. That's not the only camera he owns. I mean, you should see his house. Oh my God. He has cases on top of cases on top of cases of equipment. This guy, he has cameras and I mean, you name it. Okay. Lee Strauss is like UFO. He's got this stuff down. Like, he's got the most amazing equipment, and those cameras blow my mind. I mean, you saw it when we were up in Virginia City.
Yep.
That was the first time even I've seen that camera. That was mind blowing. You can see all the stars in a different way you've never seen before.
Look, everybody was over there trying to channel CE5, and I'm over here with Lee checking out his rig. Like, dude, this is insane. Like,
right?
I don't even I'm looking at the sky. I don't even see all those stars. Where are they at? How are you getting all those stars? And yeah, that's why I know when he catches whatever he catches, it's gonna be HD, super 4K HD visuals.
Oh yeah. Well, not only that, but between the fact that Lee was an abductee, and now he has all of these UFO experiences. He captures UFOs all the time on these cameras. And here I'm kind of on the other end where it's like I have connection more with Bigfoot, and we're in this prime area of having Bigfoot and UFO. And then you've got my sensitivity to the paranormal and Lee's sensitivity to the paranormal. And then we're going to be together for 4 straight days in this location. It's going to be mind blowing.
You guys might crack the code. I think you guys might crack the code. It seems, I mean, yay, you got yin and yang, and you guys both specialize, and then you both have that energy and that oh my gosh, yeah. And then the equipment on top of it, this is the cherry on top. This could be something amazing. I can't wait to see what happens here.
Yeah, he's the equipment man. He's got it all.
Definitely. We got to get Lee on at some point in time. Will he be is he going to be available that Sunday when
no, we're coming on together. We're doing it together.
Great. Okay.
So yeah, we're going to be on there at the same time. We're going to be basically what we want to do if we can is either we'll either do the UFO side of it or we'll do the Bigfoot side of it. Whatever more action we're getting and activity we're getting, we'll go with that. But we definitely want to share whatever activity is happening in that moment with you guys. But I'm really, really hoping that maybe something amazing happens live and you guys can either see something or hear something. Like, that's the best. We're so excited. We both feel like something major is going to happen.
I want to go search for Bigfoot. I want to go out there because I watch a lot of people who go and search for Bigfoot, and they always say that when they have that moment, when they see it, that it's like one of the most amazing moments, and it kind of changes you.
It does.
And I kind of want to have that experience. I kind of want to do that. So I'm going to have to link up with one of you guys and
absolutely
go on out there.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Lee will be coming to California in August, and maybe we might be able to make something happen in August where we can like meet up somewhere and do that. That would be amazing.
Heck yeah. That's got to happen. Yeah, we definitely have to do that. So we'll talk more about that when he comes in. Of course. Okay. All right. So we got about 10 minutes left. Did you have anything else you want to leave with the audience for this week?
Well, I just want people to know that, like, okay, for instance, like what I'm going through in my home, and if anybody else out there is going through something like that in their home, I know sometimes it can be scary. I know it sounds crazy that my son and I aren't packing our crap and leaving, but we are very used to what is happening, and I don't want people to think we're just some nutcases who just are clueless and won't get out. It doesn't matter if we leave this house and go to another house. It's still going to be in that house. Yeah. We know it's very much not the house, it's us. So, but if there are people out there who are going through this, please don't feel like you're crazy. Yes, Rob's going through it right now. And that's actually why I decided to talk about it tonight, because, he's going through it. I'm going through it. My son's going through it, and we just don't want people to feel like they're nuts or they're crazy or they're seeing things or, like this is their imagination. Like these things really do happen. And, if it's good or bad or whatever the circumstance, always feel like you can reach out if there's anything that's, especially if it's scaring you. Now for us, it's a little normal. So we deal with things on our own, but we have been in that place where we've had to reach out in the past. So I just want people to know that, like, don't be afraid to speak up. Like, that's the last thing on earth I want people to do is live in fear. Like, my son is going through it, but he has someone who he knows believes in him and understands what he's going through. So I'm totally there for him. But I do have had people reach out to me and say, like, look, I'm going through this, but I'm afraid. And I don't want people to think I'm crazy. Listen, we don't think you're crazy. We all believe in this stuff. So if you are going through anything at all, please don't be afraid to reach out and don't live in fear, because that's something that I'm dealing with in my own home right now with my son. And everyone needs someone to support them. So definitely do that.
True.
That's something that everybody needs.
True, because you see me, I have to come here to the show for therapy because I'm going through this with my lady, and we're both like, we can't really support each other on this, and to talk to other people that realize and understand what's going on is a big deal.
It is.
I was thinking, I was like, maybe we should hook up. Maybe we should make a love connection with the girl with the melty face, with the 6 foot shadow
Yeah.
person that I have. Maybe they
No,
can,
we
and
want her
then
gone.
get it out of my life. Exactly.
Yeah, we want her gone. Well, thank God we haven't seen her. I never saw her, but my son hasn't seen her in a few years, thank God. Because that one really did a number on him. But let me tell you something, and this is like on the harder side of this. This did and does cause my son a lot of anxiety. And it does mess with him in a way of depression. It has messed with him to the point of literally considering suicide. And I want people to understand that when I say, please don't be afraid to reach out, that's where I'm coming from, because I've had it from my own son. And it's a scary place to be in. And that's why people need support. And he knows no matter how dark or how weird he explains it, I'm 100% there for him. So, and if he ever says, Mom, we need help outside of the house, I get him that help. Whatever he needs, I get that for him.
And I'm with you on that, Jax, and on the, just really on a serious note, because it does, once you experience a phenomenon, it does really affect you. Like it changes you, and it could be for the better or for the worse, especially depending on if you have a support system that won't just make fun of you and kind of will understand what it is you're going through. And this is actually segues into a shameless plug for my new show called My Experience with the Phenomena. It is a place where if you don't have someone to talk to, you could actually come and get that thing off your chest, go have that therapeutic moment where you're able to discuss this or let it off your chest amongst people who understand and realize what it is that you're going through.
Exactly. Yes. I love that.
YouTube.com/@MrRobG.
Yes.
Sorry, Jax, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I agree with you 100% on all that. That's amazing. And that's exactly how I am. And I always let people know, please, I am so down to earth and easy to talk to. And if anybody out there ever wants to reach out to me, please reach out to me. I'll be here for anybody. I know I've had this my whole life. And now I've been dealing with it with my son for almost 16 years. Next month, he'll be 16. So I do understand both sides of it. And I just don't ever want anyone to feel like they don't have that support team. So I'm so happy you have that going.
Yeah. And it's man, because when you say that, that's the other side of it, of the conversation that we don't really ever get to have, is that the effects of not being able to turn somewhere and how that mentally affects you and what kind of position it puts you in. Actually, that would be a great show topic and something to cover, and I'm probably going to do that. So you kind of got that going in my mind. Appreciate you, Jax. You always coming through. Well, with that being said, Jax, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing wrapped up. If you have any last words for the audience here tonight.
You guys, if you want to come and follow me, I'm on Facebook at Jackie Harmon. It's spelled JACQUE, last name HARMON. You can also find me on Instagram at Jax_Harmon or West Coast Squatchers. So if you guys want to reach out to me, by all means, feel free. I'm there for you.
You heard that, and she means it. She definitely means it. So you guys take her up on that offer, Jax. We will be talking again next week, and I can't wait to get you and Lee on the show and show us Sasquatch once and for all, pure 100% 4K resolution. I can't wait. We'll talk soon.
Awesome.
All right, Jax. Have a great rest of your night. Have a great week.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye,
Later.
guys.
All right, guys. How do you do it? I mean, come on, guys. It's Sunday, right? It is Sunday. And we are at the end of the after hours, right? So that means we get ready to go into this new week. Hopefully energized, hopefully optimistic, hopefully mental growth, hopefully conscious growth. Hopefully these are the trigger words, the keywords that I'm hoping is coming out of the things that we're going through, and the path that we're walking with this. Once again, we had a great guest, Zen Benefiel, who will definitely be back. And I think as far as in the consciousness enlightenment category, we had the last few guests, Susan Hill, and then we had Costas Macris, we had Zen Benefiel, we have a bunch of others coming up as well. So let this stuff sit, resonate in your mind. Think about where, I don't know, just let me know what thoughts come to your mind. Maybe you can leave them in the comments sometime during the week if you have an epiphany or something that really resonated with you that you just had to speak about. Don't be afraid to leave that stuff in the comments. That's exactly what the comment section is for. Please consider hitting this like button, right? Because these shows are awesome, but for some reason, we're not getting all the likes that I feel like we should be getting here because, who else is having these conversations in ufology? Show me, point to it, show me. So if you love enlightenment and you love, trying to get humanity on this positive path and just spiritual growth, if you're with all those things, consider hitting that like button. All right. Appreciate you. What I would like to do is go ahead and take a look at our super chatters for the night. So I know we definitely had a couple here. We had Mike Bothwell who came in and said, let's have a great show tonight. Mike Bothwell predicted it, and Zen and myself, we delivered. I hope. I'm sure you'll let us know. Aloha Dave did say as well that this has been an amazing interview, a very interesting guest. Loved it. Thanks. And I really, just we do this for you guys. This is the reason why we show up here every night and we have these conversations. It's because of you guys and what you bring to the table as viewers and chat members, chat family members, all the enlightenment that you guys do amongst each other within the chat. I'm all for that. I'm here for it. I'm here during the week. I'll probably see you guys tomorrow night with Dave Scott in the chat with some more enlightenment. So with that being said, definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in. I think it was pretty awesome tonight. And outside of that, since you guys are already space travelers, consider taking the next step and joining the club. That's right. You can join our SOR Space Travelers Club for as little as $5 by joining our Patreon. Please consider doing that. With all our viewers and listeners across the globe, thanks for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. We own the night. You guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great week. And I will see you guys next Saturday.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the
You're
needle.
listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
Like, subscribe, share. You guys take care. See you later.
All we have is desire. God forbid say never again.